So let's first take a look at Pardo, and I have here packages that are older, packages that are newer. It presents in the most elegant form of all the clays I have, polymer clays I have used, in these little elegant boxes that can be used to store it for a very long time. They open and close very easily and very snugly. And then you have the paper that's wrapping it, that is very helpful to when you want to take it out. You can find it in various presentations though. You can sometimes find it in these little bowls. This is actually a mini pack, and I will show you in a little bit how the maxi pack looks, but I've never found a maxi pack here in the US, only in Europe, if you order it in Europe. And this pack has only 34 grams, 1.2 ounces. That is the rhodonite from the jewelry line, and this is a relatively old clay. It's at least 2 or 3 years old. It does a lot of the clay in the jewelry line has mica particles in it, but it is not apparent until you bake it. Now let's go a little bit further and talk about the lines of Pardo. There is a line of translucents. Right now I only can show you the translucent transparent. Then there is the art clay in various colors. Then you have the jewelry clay. The jewelry clay is, when it is in a brick format, not in little balls, is a little bit more different. But this is the another jewelry in the mini pack. Jewelry also comes, has several colors with glitter in them. This is how you can find it in Europe, in bigger jars and in the mini pack with the little balls. This one is the amethyst with silver glitter. But in the jewelry pack that is practically in brick format, it has, compared to the other ones, it has little lines on it. This one is the mother of pearl in the jewelry line, and you can see that it has those little lines. Now the mother of pearl is a little bit different from the platinum in the mica clay line, and exactly as I showed in the comparison in the mica shift with various clays, the mica particles in Pardo, I will make a short comparison in the presentation of the mica clay in platinum versus the mica clay in the jewelry line in mother of pearl. You will see that they look a little bit different. The mother of pearl is slightly whiter, but the mica particles are very, very fine and very hard to observe when the clay is not baked. And I will tell you why here in a little bit. So we have the platinum and the mother of pearl. You can see that you can barely see any kind of mica particles. If we take Cernit, I don't have any unopened package of Cernit, but Cernit has very large mica particles, almost like glitter, only that they are not too many. That is why it's not very good for mica shift. While with the Premo, the mica particles are smaller than Cernit but bigger than Pardo, and they are more easily observable even in an unopened package. And again, I will tell you in a minute why. You cannot really see the mica particles in Pardo. Now let's see about conditioning. I have on the left a fresh package, the one that's like at least 3 or 4 years old, and this one is at least 8 years old. So let's go ahead and condition and see what conditioning Pardo entails. When it is very fresh, it is very easy. It is fairly, and actually I'm going to get the gold because I don't want to confuse you with whites. It is fairly soft. It looks fairly soft. You see, when you try to bend, it bends easily. But the thing with Pardo is that Pardo is a clay with which I like to say you need to bond with it. It needs to feel your warmth. Always condition, when you slice Pardo for conditioning, always slice it very thin. With Premo, for example, you can slice it as thick as it would go through your thickest setting on the pasta machine, and then just get at it and it will be easily conditioned. With Pardo, you have to condition on the thinnest setting. You see that just cut in thin slices out of the box, it's very flexible. And you can see the folding cracks is valid for Pardo, but this test is not valid. Pardo will crack when you do this test, no matter how well it is conditioned when you open the fold again. Now just manipulating it in your hands for a little bit, it will make it pliable and very almost ready to work. Because you do not have to add any kind of softener to Pardo. The softener is inside. The softener is beeswax. Pardo is based on beeswax, and all you have to do is to warm up the beeswax enough. And this is the test. The thinnest setting on most machines that most polymer clay artists don't like to work with because it ripples and the clay becomes too thin and too friable, has absolutely no effect on Pardo. Pardo becomes like a very thin piece of silk that you can crumple and then you can uncrumple. Even if it does stick a little bit on itself, you can uncrumple it back to a perfect sheet. It does not stick too much to itself, and you can see it's resilient enough even at this exceptionally thin setting to not break when manipulated. See, I am crumpling it again and I will be straightening it from being crumpled. And I can straighten it without breaking it or anything. So this is a fresh Pardo that I had just purchased last month, and it conditioned absolutely beautifully. Let's get now to the next Pardo, the one that is at least 2 or 3 years old. It's from one of the last supplies from Hobby Lobby, because as I told you, Pardo had a bad experience in the US because the first batches kind of got half baked on the way, and everybody who bought Pardo thought it was a very bad clay. That's why after that nobody bought Pardo anymore, and also the fact that it conditions differently than the other clays, and it did not come with instructions on how to condition it, made it not very usable for American artists. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing with the older Pardo, that is cut it in thin slices. As you can see, it's not as flexible as the brand new one, but it can still be cut in very thin sheets without crumbling. And no, Pardo, like any other clay, polymer clays, does not go old and unusable. As long as it is stored properly without being exposed to too high heat, it will perform absolutely fine. Now again, I am going to warm it up in my hands, and honestly, when I have to condition an older package of Pardo, excuse me, what I do, I either place it in a Ziploc bag and stuff it in my bruh. That's the truth. Or you can place it in a Ziploc bag very tight and place it in warm water, not hot water, warm water, to warm up that beeswax that's inside. And I will leave the little bit that I have cut first to bake it unconditioned, and I will show you what happens when it's not conditioned. And then I will get another piece and I will warm it up in my hands, and then I will condition it by passing it through the pasta machine on that exceptional thin setting. See, I warmed it up, there is no more crack, and then it is perfectly conditioned. I can do exactly what I did with the brand new fresh one. So I will make another little cabochon out of it. And you see, you don't see any kind of mica in it when it is not baked. Only when it is baked. You will see the difference. Number one, with Pardo, if you smooth enough, you don't have to sand. It will buff beautifully even without sanding. But you will see the difference between the non-conditioned and the conditioned. Now this is the Pardo that's at least 8 years old. I don't know, it's either 8 or 10. Because I bought 2 big batches of translucent transparent 10 years ago and 8 years ago. So I cut a slice that you can see on the table before conditioning, and I cut it very thin, and then I will have 2 pieces. One of them, you see, I did not warm it a lot in my hands. I passed it through the pasta machine on the thinnest setting, and so it is only like half conditioned, and I'll make a cabochon out of it. And then at the other piece, I will condition it very, very thoroughly and make a cabochon out of it. So this is the half conditioned. When I pass over it with the roller, it will crack at the edges, but I am forming it into a small cabochon and smooth out the top. And now the secret with the translucent is that it does not become translucent until it cools off. And I'm not going to show you the translucency in this one because I just want to talk about it when I will deal with the translucent, working with translucent Pardo. Now this one is the one that is perfectly conditioned, and I am making another cabochon out of it. And also this video was done at night, and I should have had to wait until daylight to show you the perfect translucency. But because of the fact that the translucent Pardo does not become translucent until it is baked and cooled, when you take it out of the oven it will still be white. It does not become transparent until it cools off. That's why you cannot see the mica particles in the mica clays. Now this is the sheet that I have cut, and is not conditioned, nothing. I did buff it, and it is wonderful to use. You need to cut it in specific ways, and I will show you how when you want to imitate minerals. This is the rhodonite, and now we can see the mica particles in it. The one on the right has not been conditioned, and because of that had little wax particles on top of it, and that make it not be as shiny no matter how much I have smoothed it out. Because if you do not condition it properly, those little beeswax particles do not get evenly mixed in the clay to get this result. Again, I did not sand any of these. This one was conditioned enough not to have wax particles on top, and it's still buffed beautifully. And I'm showing to you in different lights. And again, we will talk about the translucency and the mooning and the plaquing of Pardo when I will do the segment about translucence. And this is the one that was perfectly conditioned. You can see how they look and how they don't need to be buffed, and what beautiful, beautiful aspect they have. Happy claying!